In this life, we're often presented with choices. Some of them have to do with the meaning of life. Who am I? Why am I here? Others are less essential, such as which entry-level prancing pony purchase is right for me. Having owned a Ferrari 308 GTB back in the 90s, I'm tempted to rejoin the ranks of the Tifosi one more time. Call me crazy, but this time around I'm torn between the 355 and the 360. And the only way to find out which I prefer is to take them both for a drive on one of my favorite roads. So here I am driving northbound on PCH. The car I'm driving is a 1996 Ferrari 355. Belongs to Coco. Coco owns Hi-Tech Automotive. He's been working on European specialty cars for the past 35 years. He first fell in love with the Ferrari 355 when it debuted at the LA Auto Show in 1995. But it took him almost 25 years to find this example in 1996 because, obviously he didn't want a red one and he wanted one that was manual. So the Ferrari 355 is really the last of the wedge-shaped mid-engine V8 Ferraris. The 355, it stands for 3.5 litre 5-valve per cylinder. So it's got a very unique whale from the mid-mounted 375 horsepower naturally aspirated V8. One of the things I do love about the 355, I have to admit, when I first got in it, it's not intimidating at all. Everything's where it needs to be. The clickety-click gated 6-speed is a real joy to shift. Visibility all around is surprisingly good. The steering is extremely direct. The feel of it, the movement, the car feels super nimble, feels super alive. So I'm off to meet my buddy, Patrick Liddy. He's actually a race car driver, and he's managed to borrow the keys to his uncle's manual Ferrari 360. I'm going to drop it down a cog, press on, and go meet Patrick Liddy over at Neptune's Net for some fish and chips. Patrick Liddy, a lifelong LA native with a need for speed. He grew up around vintage Porsches, but he learned to drive in a manual Ferrari 360. And now he's a racing driver in Lamborghini's Young Driver program, racing in something called the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, competing in the Pro-Am Championship and IMSA GT4 Cup. So, I convinced Patrick to borrow his uncle's 360, the actual car he learnt to drive in, and join me in the 355 as we compare them back to back in the hills near Malibu. The 355 was a lot of fun, but let me see what a hot shoe can do in the 360. So, 1999, first year of the Ferrari 360. Tell me your history with this car.
Yeah, so it's been a fun history with Ferrari. My grandpa brought me out to track days out of Willow Springs when I was little in his 328 GTS. And when I was about 10 or 11, he decided he wanted an upgrade, got this 360 Modena. And I actually learned how to drive stick and heel toe in this thing, which it was very brave of him to allow that.
Hold on. How old were you?
I was 15 and a half, so I had my permit stuck in the side door here and was learning how to drive manual in this thing.
So that's kind of, I would say, a little bit like diving in at the deep end. Was it easy? Did it come natural?
No, my heart was beating out of my chest, I remember, and the thing I remember distinctly is being stuck at a big hill start.
Yeah.
and wondering what I should do with the pedals. You know, every time I tried to go for the clutch and the gas, I would just roll back.
No pressure there.
Right.
So how do you go from being a 15-and-a-half-year-old learning to drive in a 360 Ferrari to becoming a race car driver for Lamborghini? How does that happen?
I just had a lucky break. One of my friends was working for the race team, and he said, hey, we've got Mid-Ohio coming up in 5 days and our driver is out. Can you make it? So I said, all right. When I dropped all my classes for the week, flew to Ohio, and had never driven the track or car, and we went out and won the race.
No way.
Just got lucky, I think, in that race, but I've
a
been
win's a
really,
win.
Yeah, I'll take it.
How does this Ferrari feel, 8 years later? It's got, 400 horsepower, it weighs like 3,300 pounds-ish. How does it feel now, today?
It feels great. You can really feel the weight transfer in this car. Best thing is hearing those revs wind out. 8,500 RPM rev limiter. And pedal box is perfect for heel toe. You come into a corner like this, third gear, hit the brakes, down to second, right back on it.
It does seem effective with the power. It's always different from the passenger seat. It does seem a little more spirited than the 355. The interesting thing to me is they're only 3 years apart, but they look 20 years apart visually, I think.
They really do. And this thing, we were talking earlier about how wide it looks compared to the 355.
Yeah.
You have these big fenders on this little Malibu Canyon road.
But yet it doesn't really weigh much more.
No, I think it's about 70 pounds heavier, this thing.
This is a different construction, right?
Yeah, so this is the first all aluminum unibody from Ferrari. And I believe yours is steel, right?
Some sort of steel frame, yeah. Steel frame aluminum body panel. And that is the last Ferrari with the pop-up headlights. It's the last of the wedgy angular 70, styling that started in the 70s with the 308. And this is the beginning of the modern era, This has got, digital dials and dashes, carrying a boatload of speed here. Feels really grounded and hooked up. It'll be interesting to see how it feels for me.
Yeah, let's see what you got.
Acceleration is rapid for sure. So the first thing I notice about the 360 Modena, it does feel torquier, it feels a little more snappy throttle responsive. There's more room around the steering wheel. This has bigger brakes, ventilated rotors. The shifting's nice and buttery, just like the other one with that super Ferrari gated clickety-click. You never get tired of clickety-clicking, I will say that. Super grippy, like Patrick says. Corner speed is fast in and out. It does feel pretty big on these tight, twisty Decker Canyon. I mean, it's not night and day difference, it's incremental difference. And then the main thing obviously is, visually the difference. The improvement on the 360 over the 355 is the accessibility to the engine from this bulkhead panel behind me. I suppose Ferrari finally figured out, hey, let's make it where you don't have to take the engine out to do a timing belt service. So from that point of view, everyone does say the 360 is an easier car to live with when it comes to maintenance costs. So the Ferrari 360 to me has everything that makes it an instant classic. It's the beginning of the whole swoopy era of Ferrari's mid-engined V8 cars. Started here with the 360. I often say all true car enthusiasts enjoy the thrill of the chase that is researching their dream spec car. But after spending hours online and talking with experts comparing Ferrari models, I have to admit, sometimes too much data can be overwhelming. And the only real way to know how you feel about a car is just get out and drive. Hey fella.
Not a bad day in the canyon.
Not a bad day at all. So Patrick, if I had to pick one, someone said, hey, you can take whichever one you want, I
Right.
still don't have a solid answer. I love the way this looks for everything it is, the last of the wedgie. I love the way this looks for the beginning of everything. Without a doubt, this is the better of the two driving car.
No doubt.
It puts the power down better, it shifts better, it stops better, but this keeps pulling back because it's got all the character in the world. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think the gear change, everything that you feel in the 360 is a little bit tighter, a little bit better. But you know, for me, aesthetically, that 355 makes up for a little bit older driving feel.
So you're going to take the 355 but with the 360 mechanicals and powertrain and suspension.
Right.
Probably not a bad choice.